Well, the New South Wales Opposition wants to force groups of protesters to pay for their demonstrations after more than 90,000 people gathered on the Sydney Harbour Bridge in support of Palestine on the weekend and the starving children there. The state's Shadow Attorney General will soon introduce a bill that would allow groups to have 3 free demos per year before being required to pay for the use of public resources. They say it's not about silencing any causes, it's about protecting the rights of everyday people using our roads. For their take, let's bring in Daily Telegraph journalist James Willis and the founding director of Western Sydney Women, Amanda Rose. Good morning to you, James. Should protesters get 3 for free and then have to pay?
Look, I think it's pretty reasonable. And in this case, firstly, the movement on the weekend was extremely powerful, and it takes a lot for that many people to turn up on a wet Sunday into Sydney. And obviously, what is going on in the Middle East right now is just tragic, and we should all care about it. I think, though, however, the issue with the laws at the moment is they don't take into account economic damage, and they don't take into account enough the impact on people's lives. So if you wanted to go into the city on the weekend, if you wanted to use the Harbour Bridge, you couldn't do that for more than 5 hours. There were more than 1,000 police involved in this. The cost was $2 million to the taxpayer. And so if a movement of something, an issue that is this significant is going to continue, well, then there has to be a limit before the user pays, in the same way that when you have a sporting event or a concert, the organisers are paying the bill or some of the bill to have police there. So we can't just allow this to go on without a payment, and I think it's a pretty reasonable proposal. OK, well, the disruption, I went into the city when the bridge was closed. It probably took me 20 extra minutes, so it probably wasn't as much of an impost as some people thought. If you're watching from around Australia, that literally took that route at about midday. But the cost to taxpayers, is that a really good case for limiting protests?
Well, my concern here is they're saying that you can have it for free for 3 of them, but after that you need to pay. So instantly, those who have deep pockets have the ability to pay for protesting. So we might then see those who are paying for politicians to be re-elected, so certain lobby groups that actually got deep pockets are paying for them to be re-elected. They can dictate what legislation is or what the issues are, because they can then pay for the protesting moving forward after the 3. So we're, really harming those who need a voice for protesting. So I believe, yes, you can't, be out of control and do it every weekend on the Harbour Bridge. I totally respect that. But we need to make sure we don't become an elitist society where we say those who desperately are trying to get their voice heard but don't have the funds, which is usually the case, still have the ability to protest and have a right to protest.
Is that a decent point, James?
Oh, I think on that, firstly, I'd love, Amanda, for you to give us an example of a rich person that can organise a protest of that size, or even half that size or a quarter of that size. I don't really see how that happens every weekend. The point here is this has been going on and off probably every week for the last 2 years, and has grown in size now. There is a precedent now where they've allowed a protest group to use the Harbour Bridge, and that is what the concern is moving forward, that another group could come forward and say that. But in terms of the money, who's going to be paying to organise a protest of that size to get someone elected into Parliament?
Well, that's right. So when the legislation kicks in and then they're saying, oh, we can't have any more protests, but then they're going to say, well, how can those guys get a protest? But don't forget, the government has also paid for people to be able to use the Harbour Bridge, like with World Pride, or actually paid for people to use the Harbour Bridge, like with the filming and things like that. So they have no problems in that capacity. My concern is that if you're going to limit someone's ability to have more than 3 protests, and we've got people that need to have their voices heard, sorry, you need to pay, and it's going to cost, say, $2 million. Who's got $2 million? Those with deep pockets, and those with deep pockets are the ones that pay for politicians. They have their fundraising events, whether it's Labor or Liberal, it's irrelevant. The point is people with money are the only ones that will be able to protest moving forward, if that happens.
I think that the bigger issue here, Nat, is that there are a lot of issues in the world that are worthy of protest, and this is one of them. But however, there are other countries and other parts of the world that are, going through hunger and, have terrible leaders, or there's genocides going on. And so by allowing the Middle East to have a protest there in favour of Palestine, where do you draw the line? Where do you have the next protest group to say, no, sorry, your cause is not as important as ours? So it's just creating that sort of precedent for the next time that this comes up to be able to say, well, now I guess we've got to consider using the Harbour Bridge because that many people walked over it over the weekend.
OK, look, the Premier of New South Wales is looking at it to see whether this has a legal precedent. This is the Coalition of New South Wales is now going to look at whether there should be some sort of payment plan. Tell us what you think. It was huge on the weekend. The protesters say there were up to 300,000 people there. The police say around 90 to 100. Moving on, 2 in 5 parents say their kids are making friends with AI. Turning to the technology for companionship and emotional support. It's because many chatbots are designed to simulate personal relationships with human-like conversation. Is this a concern or is this OK, James?
Well, I have to declare, Nat, I've given this a go. I've had a chat to ChatGPT.
Yes.
Because, you know, you get a fair trial. Like, they never say anything harsh back.
Yeah.
And
it's not like Amanda.
They agree with everything you say and you can sort of, It's my safe space to sort of be on ChatGPT.
No.
I'll be going on it straight after this just to say, hi, how did I do, yada, yada, yada. My issue on a serious note is I think these programs are stopping people using their brains, and the more that we use them and the more that we feed them or ask them to send emails or write drafts for us, the less we're actually using our brains, and it's clearly an issue with kids. Mind you, most kids had an imaginary friend at some stage of life, and this is obviously the new age version of that.
They were kind of talking to a teddy bear, though. Like, it was a bit different to this. So they're worried about misinformation, manipulation, deep fakes, what ChatGPT or one of the others is going to know about you then advise you of. Amanda.
That's right. And there's been stories and incidents where, people have said to their AI tool, I want to kill myself, and they've gone, OK, go do it, right? So I think we need to go a step back here and go, children are missing human connection. So as a parent, I would suggest, on the weekends, no technology, invite your friends over, play some sport, have some human engagement and connection, because they're going to ChatGPT and other AI tools for friendship and connection. So they're missing that. So we need to say, how can we fill that gap so they're not going to technology because it is a dangerous, dangerous hole to go down.
Yeah, it is. And look, it's great for certain things. We all know that everyone's using it.
As a tool for work.
As a tool.
Not for counselling.
Yeah, but these are the things we're going to be looking out for as, everyone starts using it.
And not in favour of your imaginary teddy bear friend as a kid.
Yeah, OK, we'll buy you a teddy bear. Thanks, Jess.